McLuhan thought that the coming of the electronic age would speed up the movement of information, injecting new life into the mundane mechanical era. He thought that the rules, the regulations, the beliefs of the 19th century would be overturned as we were forced to dance to the faster rhythm of the electronic information loop.
In the 1960s, he told a story of how, in the future, we'll all be connected in real time, and our messages will just sort of flow as if we were sitting next to each other. You know, as if we were right there. And that's just a profound thing to say in 1968.
I'm off to visit web entrepreneur Jonah Peretti, who believes McLuhan's dreams are now playing out in Homo Interneticus. That spoof cat videos and dancing men are actually evidence of a sophisticated, interactive culture at work.
McLuhan realized that people always judge new media by the standards of old media. So in this case, you see that the internet is all about the social relationships and the network, but people still judge it as if it was static content. And so you look at it and say, oh, this is a silly cat video, and judge it as content, instead of saying, oh, this was something that one person created in their garage, that 3 other people collaborated on and added to, that was now being used to satirize a political campaign, and that it's part of a web of creativity and a network of sharing that is actually more interesting and important than the media itself.
I think a lot of people would look at so much of what goes on online, you know, the memes, the silliness, the kittens that are stuffed inside glass vases and all these kinds of things that literally get sent around everywhere as a distraction, as a bit of a waste of time, as actually not particularly worthwhile. But at the same time, you're seeing it as something that has a sophistication, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you think about things that are a waste of time, think about the average sitcom, right? Or the average Hollywood movie. You know, you sit there passively, there's not really much to do except just passively consume this media that's for the lowest common denominator. When you look at viral culture, what you see is people much more engaged. You know, so you mentioned kittens and glasses. The Bonsai Kitten project was a fake site that made it look like instructions for how to make bonsai kittens, where you put them in jars and they get funny shapes and you can make your very own. It was a total prank. And the person who created it launched it by telling a bunch of animal rights activists about it and said, you'll love this. Of course, he knew that they would freak out and hate it and send it all around. But then as a consumer, when you see that, you have to go through a sophisticated thought process where you say, it's a joke, I think it's funny and I like it and I'm going to send it to people. Or it's a joke and I think it's still offensive and I'm going to fight it and organize. And once you figure out some of the principles of how things spread online, how do you make something that when people see it, they want to share it or pass it along or bring more people in, it can work for silly things or for serious things.
The apparently superficial culture of young people on the web can have a serious side and a direct impact on the real world. One of the most powerful examples for me can be seen in how Generation Web is re-engaging with politics.
What is required of us now is a new era of responsibility. A recognition on the part of every American that we have duties to ourselves, our nation, and the world.
I made the decision in February of 2007, pretty early on, to take a leave from Facebook and go and work full-time for the Obama campaign. The campaign from the start was really interested in running a bottoms-up grassroots initiative, which happened to intersect directly with everything that was happening online in 2006, 2007, 2008.
Barack Obama!
The young users of YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter became central to the campaign.
We had members of Congress on Twitter. We had protesters organizing through Twitter outside. We had the president on Twitter using it to campaign. And we had everyone in the country, well, not everyone, but a lot of folks across the country using Twitter to express their opinions on the hot topics. So we sort of had, like, the entire spectrum.
During the election year, Obama had 3 million Facebook friends. and studies show 1/3 of all under 30-year-olds used social networking to communicate their politics. That figure was negligible 4 years earlier. 2/3 watched political videos online, 1/4 forwarded them on, or remixed the material.
'Cause I got a crush on Obama, I'll wait till 2008. Baby, you're the best candidate. I like it when
What we were able to do was figure out how people could do it their way, and that there was a really just a groundswell of energy and enthusiasm, both in terms of fundraising, but also in terms of time spent volunteering for the campaign.
America, we have come so far. We have seen so much, but there's so much more to do.
Election night in Chicago was something I think anybody who was there will have to say will never happen again.
It was indescribable. I mean, it was a really important moment for the country above everything else. We were all just so emboldened by the fact that not only had we done it, but we'd done it differently. And that made everything all the more powerful.
The technology of the web, with its feedback loops and associative connections, appears to have attracted young people to politics on a scale that hasn't been seen for generations. All around the world, as we've seen, young people, for better or worse, are harnessing the power of the web to fight their causes. From the uprising in Iran to the young Russian hackers who claim to have launched cyber war against Estonia. They recognize the power of the web to connect and collaborate. For many, this is a very positive development. Web guru Stephen Johnson believes ultimately collaboration, a kind of pooling of intelligence allowed by the web, has always been a key driver of human progress.
If you look at the history of invention, what you find is that inventions are dramatically disproportionately centered in urban areas. One of the great things about cities is they're filled with these public spaces like a coffee shop where people come together who might have some shared interests but come from different backgrounds. They work for different companies, or they are artists meeting writers or filmmakers. And in that kind of point of convergence, they sit around and they talk and they share ideas, and it becomes a kind of connective space. So the web is, in some sense, this kind of virtual version of what cities have historically done. You have people connected in a way that was never possible before, and part of it is this basic kind of principle built into the architecture of the web. The web is, at its core, a platform for linking things.
I believe that at best, the web can be like an exciting, innovative metropolis that eventually could benefit the younger generations. Earlier, we saw that some people view South Korea, the most wired nation on Earth, as a nightmarish vision of web addiction. But along with the downsides come hidden benefits. As young South Koreans grow up in their supercharged digital world, they regularly top the world's education league tables.
그냥 표현으로 지금 표현만 다 나와. 그러니까 우리가 지금 궁금한 거는 뭐야? 뭐를 낳는? 새끼를 낳는?
I'm meeting the president of the Korean National Information Society Agency, who claims that Korean children's advanced achievement is not due only to a great education system, but because from an early age they interact and work together on the web.
Korea is now leading country in terms of mathematics and science and other areas. I think it is influenced by this kind of environment of the high penetration of internet.
This generation is growing up with the web. It's growing up with it as part of their education system. What hopes and what expectations do you have for the world when they grow up?
They will be more intelligent compared with us. So
I look forward to that.
It is more, because they now recognize the importance of communication and helping each other for solving some problem. collective intelligence is now basic to their instinct. I hope it is helpful for some evolution of mankind in the world.
Every kid starts with an incredible amount of curiosity. You know, why are some materials strong? Why are some materials weak? Well, you know, I asked that when I was a kid. Nobody could answer. Now, you know, my son will get the answers and want to ask more questions. So I think it's a huge change.
이거는 안구 체조, 우리 눈 체조를 해주는 거래요.
Human civilization as a whole is now witnessing the connection of people everywhere on Earth through this web